The development of political parties. Political parties provide a political identity. Parties compete in a political marketplace. Parties produce candidates and policies to a market of voters. And we make a rational choice about which political party we decide to belong to. Individuals act in their own best interest, carefully considering the consequences of choosing Republicans over Democrats. Voters want to maximize the likelihood that their policy preferences will become law, and they have to choose the party that can do this the best. Okay, so if you are a CEO of a business, a huge multi-million-dollar company, you come from a background of wealth, you are Ivy League educated, your policy preference is that corporate taxes should be low, there should be increased free trade. You aren't really worried about entitlement programs. Okay, so rationally, you should be a Republican. A white woman who's married, homeowner. Uh, let's see, I'm a woman. I live in the urban area. I'm white. I'm 30. I'm middle to low income. So technically, I'm centrist. I'm moderate. That's what makes that's a rational decision for me. That's why most people are independent or moderate, and that's why most political parties move to the middle of the political spectrum when it's time to campaign, because most people are such a mix of socioeconomic background and their demographics that people really can't just choose, I am always going to be Republican, or choose that they are always going to be Democrat. And that's why so many people are in the middle. Party image. Candidates do all sorts of things to win. They're going to kiss babies, they're going to call opponents ugly names, they're going to lie, they're going to cheat, but ultimately they are concerned with accomplishments. And the policy position, which is dictated by party ideology. So, right now, and this is the truth, when it comes to party image, Republicans are very perplexed. Um, they're caught between the I'm gonna call them. It's fine. It's time for y'all to know. Rhino, the Rhinos versus the Tea Party. The Rhinos are Republican in name only. They are the more moderate Republicans. They're the more old school Republicans because they go moderate because they know most people's views are very centrist. Um, on paper, most people like less government. On paper, most people don't want to pay a lot of taxes. On paper, most people want their states to provide most of their services for them. On paper, most people are Republicans. Where Republicans are losing a lot of people is with the religious conservative talk and with the that Tea Party Republican group that has moved so far to the right of the political spectrum. So Republicans are in a quandary right now. They don't know which side to go with. Do we go Tea Party or do we go moderate? Um, so it'll be interesting to see how that develops. And I think it's really going to become obvious with their choice in the 2016 Republican primaries. If they go with a more moderate choice like Chris Christie, you can see that they've picked that more centrist view as their party image. If they do go with Rand Paul or even Paul Ryan and Marco Rubio, not Marco Rubio probably be more moderate, but Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is definitely a little bit more extreme. It will be clear with their choice which way they're going to go. And that, their party image at that point, whichever way they decide to go, whether it's like super conservative or moderate, will really decide their fate of who's going to be part of their coalition in the future. Since parties pander to the moderate, Okay, a lot of their policy preferences really don't take a decisive stand on issues, and this is very frustrating for people who want to see government change. Um, let's see, like if this chart would show you that there are weak ties to the major parties. Again, as more people become or independent and moderate, they they're getting frustrated with the parties, and then the parties try to accommodate those people by not taking decisive stands, but really what they're doing is kind of cutting their nose off to spite their face. They're actually hurting their party image. It's like people want them to say, this is what I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do it. But they're not doing that because they don't want to upset us. What ends up happening as we become more independent is that we split our ticket. We're voting for one party for a certain office and then another party for another office. This has increased since the 1960s, and it creates divided government. So like I would go in, and in 2016 I might really like Chris Christie for president, a Republican, but further on the ballot I might really like Bobby Scott, my Democratic House of Representatives member. So that's what part of the thing that causes divided government is that for one for one office we'll vote for one party, and then for another office we'll vote for the other. Okay, this is pretty straightforward, so I'm just going to read off of this real quick. Divided government, we know as one party controls the presidency and the other party controls Congress. It can create gridlock when one party blocks the policy efforts of the other. Now, besides ticket splitting, another thing that causes divided government is the way House district lines are drawn. House district lines are drawn to keep partisan power. And when we go over the House of Representatives and we go over Congress and elections, you're going to actually draw district lines, and you're going to see how this works. But that also is another reason why we have divided government. Okay. Electoral de-alignment. A large group of voters decide not to support a party. So de-alignment by definition means you're not aligned with a group. Okay. It happens when party loyalty takes a backseat to voting based on candidate appeal. Okay, and then electoral realignment is changing party support. So it's a shift of voting patterns. It is following a critical event generally, and the party that was in power loses power because a new party is able to create a coalition of support based on their campaign promises. So I talked about how important promises are to building a group of supporters or a coalition of supporters. The most infamous electoral realignment was in 1932 when the Republicans had been in power for 70 years, since the 1860s. We had a critical event, which was the Great Depression. Okay. The Republicans could not alleviate the effects of the Great Depression. FDR comes in as a Democrat, promises he's going to make the Great Depression better by helping getting Americans to work. He makes a bunch of promises. He builds a lot of support. And now the Democrats are in control from 1932 till 1968. So an electoral realignment is when you see a balance of power shift between the parties. Okay. Another one is the Solid South. The Solid South in the 1960s and 1970s turns Republican. Okay, so partisanship in elections continued. Okay, realignment. The majority party is able to become the dominant party, and they win by building a new coalition of support. And how do they build that coalition of support? They make the right promises. Like a lot of y'all said that the way that the Republicans or the Democrats are going to win the 2016 election is to build a coalition of support from Latino voters. And you said they were going to do that by reforming immigration. That is perfect. That's exactly how political parties think when they're trying to attract coalitions. Okay, de-alignment, again, party loyalty is less important. Generally, we can measure the alignment when you see that people have split their ticket when they vote, so voting for one party for one office and another party for another. Okay, then you have maintaining elections. A maintaining election is when nothing changes. It occurs when the traditional majority party power maintains that power. And generally, they will have that party will have Congress and the White House. So, if you look in an example of that would be in the 1800s, late 1800s, when Congress was dominated by Republicans, and Republicans also dominated the White House for decades. Okay, those were maintaining elections, status quo. A deviating election occurs when a minority party is able to win the support of new members, but it doesn't stay that way. So, an example of a deviating election is when we had from 1860 to 1932, we had Republicans in control of Congress and the White House. But in the 1910s, Woodrow Wilson, who's a Democrat, was able to win a couple of elections. But after Woodrow Wilson, it went right back to Republicans. So Woodrow Wilson, being a Democrat, was a little blip in the system. Critical elections. Critical elections are marking a period of realignment. All right, and they indicate a sharp change in existing voting patterns and party loyalty due to changing conditions. So critical elections mark a new party era. Not era.